Under the COVID-19 pandemic, America's food supply chain is experiencing disruption. The U.S. food industry relies heavily on human labor to move food from harvest to market, and is only as strong as the people who work it. While the U.S. Department of Agriculture assures the public that the
American food supply is strong, resilient, and safe,
the chain is at risk because its workers are at risk. Let's take a look at the different parts of the industry that have been affected during the pandemic. Growers are experiencing unprecedented workflow disruption. Farmers have been left with fewer distribution options, given the reduction in demand from traditional buyers such as restaurants, schools, and hotels. Growers are having to figure out how to adapt. For example, selling wholesale doesn't work for a consumer without a need for a 10-pound bag of onions for onion rings. Crops planted earlier in the year are either getting left to rot, plowed back into the field, or composted. Unpurchased milk is getting dumped. With reduced processing plant capacity and no place for the excess animals, some farmers are euthanizing livestock. An excess of crops and meat without buyers leave many farmers wondering how they will stay in business. Food bank donations, normally an available option, have strict protocols in place. Growers must meet packaging requirements by the FDA and USDA, and for many, adapting to a new model comes at too high a price. The current reality of the supply chain makes it difficult for a producer to shift the distribution process. As production plants and crop farmers look to the government for financial relief, another sector, food processing plants, are also feeling the stress of the pandemic.
Across the country, meat prices are now up as much as 25%.
A growing number of major meat processing plants are closed because of coronavirus.
Meatpacking plants in particular are a hotspot. Workers are susceptible to outbreaks of COVID-19 because plant environments can be incubators for viral spread. The cool temperature at which meat is kept, close proximity of workers, and the physical exertion required for the job are all contributing factors. Worker advocates are fighting for more strict sanitation protocols and PPE. But with sick workers off the line and others afraid to come into work, gaps in production widen. Despite President Trump's executive order to enact the Defense Production Act to keep meat processing plants open, dozens have had to halt production and close shop. Packaging is facing its own production woes. Many manufacturing companies rely on facilities and source materials from overseas. With coronavirus closures, production and shipment delays have been hard hit. The sustainability aspect of packaging that was a focus for many companies will likely take a back seat for now as consumers prioritize their health and safety. Many cities and states across the nation have banned reusable bags, fearing the spread of COVID-19. With demand shifting towards packaging for grocery and e-commerce purchases, manufacturers will need to reassess where their materials are produced, as well as how food is packaged in a post-pandemic world, focusing on food safety. Once the food is properly packaged, it must then make the journey to retail. While there is some debate over whether a shortage of truck drivers exists, it is increasingly clear that the current COVID-19 crisis is adding pressure to the transportation industry, as they do their part to keep supply chains running. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, truckers and truck stops now qualify as essential businesses. Some truck stops are putting in protections that other industries have already adopted to keep drivers on the road. With the job comes risks such as exposure to COVID-19, limited access to supplies, delayed hazard pay, and potential food spoilage. The nation relies heavily on these drivers delivering goods, such as food and paper products, to keep stores stocked. The ripple effect through the supply chain has placed the market-to-consumer relationship in flux. Production slowdowns and consumer excess buying are leading to empty grocery store shelves and desperate customers. To keep up with demand, store owners have shifted hours to allow for the restocking of shelves. As essential workers, store employees are also fearful for their safety. Some supermarkets are adapting quickly and taking the necessary precautions to protect their clerks and customers, while others have come under fire for their lack of response when employees have tested positive for COVID-19. Most stores have adopted new safety restrictions to include special hours for seniors, social distancing indicators, and limiting the number of shoppers allowed in a store at a time. Consumers are seeing the effects of the pandemic not only on their grocers' shelves, but in their wallets as well. With higher prices and fewer products available, customers are making changes to the way they feed their families. Americans are learning to navigate a stay-at-home life by cooking most of their meals themselves. With diminished access to meat from grocery stores, many are turning to alternative options, such as plant-based products or direct-to-consumer delivery services. Like so many industries that have been upended by the pandemic, the future of the food supply chain is unclear. What is becoming clear is that consumers and suppliers alike need to make greater changes to the future of our food. While the industry relies predominantly on human labor, COVID-19 has highlighted the need to construct a more resilient model, where the supply chain is less susceptible to disruption and waste. We may need to reimagine the food industry as a whole for a post-pandemic world.